I think fashion has become a community and a society in which a lot of young people people of all ages, but a lot of people in general find society in and find a community in, or go to for hierarchy reasons, social status reasons. For multiple occasions they go to it, and I think it's becoming less and less about fashion and more about what comes with the opportunities of being in that industry. And in saying that, I think we talk more about fashion, and I think we actively think about it less than we ever have used to. Everyone is dressed, but very, very few are expressing, and I mean intentionally dressing themselves. Obviously, this is subject to my own opinion. I do want to put a disclaimer, and I'm not calling anyone out in particular. This is just something that has come up in my head, and I really want to talk about it on here because I've been needing to make a video. It's actually my birthday, by the way, so I'm on my grind, okay? Anyways, everyone is dressed, but very few people are dressing or expressing themselves through their clothing or intentionally dressing in a sense. And I'm not talking like sense of style and aesthetics of like being vintage, cool, like Parisian, or anything in that sort of realm of categories. I mean, why did you choose that outfit, and why are you wearing that? Like, I just mean as purely as that. I think people have lost the question in why they're dressing themselves the way they are. Somewhere along the way, authenticity got flattened into aesthetics. I'm a person who really, really deeply believes in authenticity, and this subject came along to me in that, like, into the idea of being authentic. Actually, I've written a Substack article on authenticity, so if you want to read, short little plug. No, but if you actually do want to read that, it's on my Substack. And I did briefly explore the idea of fashion in authenticity and the way you express yourself. But I think now it has been, as I said before, categorized and flattened into the idea of an aesthetic rather than actually self-expression and uniquely your own self and your own sense of self and how you are seen. I'm so sorry, my shirt is so crinkly and I'm noticing that now. We don't really ask anymore, does this feel like me? It's more so we're asking, what does this signal? What does this say about me? And what does this represent for me in my life? And how will this benefit me, or where will this set me? And I think that's a big difference in how we look at fashion and how we look at dressing ourselves. Within that realm of aestheticization, is that a word? Now it is. Within that realm, I think, there comes a point in your life, or multiple points in your life, because I'm sure it happens to people multiple times as we all change, where you literally probably go and think, what is my aesthetic? Wait, no, this is giving my aesthetic. I'm going to choose this door. Like, that's that one. Like, you're, like, showcased 10 different doors with each a different aesthetic, and it's like, which one will I pick now? And I think, like, especially with how fast social media moves at the moment and how many, like, new niche aesthetics are coming every, like, day, it's really easy to change your aesthetic or just go ahead and I think change is fine, but I think just going ahead and choosing a specific aesthetic and saying this is my aesthetic, and then going up on Pinterest and then being able to search on Pinterest that literal aesthetic and kind of just copy and paste. I think that has become a very big cycle in this era of media and this era of the digital age, where we have such quick access to so many things that it's really hard to come up with something that's really uniquely yours and really who you are as a person. And it's really hard, and it is actually a really difficult thing to be like, that is me. I always have my brother and I's conversations always ends up talking about authenticity. I don't know why, and I'm not like, And he always says to me, like, I find it really, he's older than me too, he just turned 19, and he always says to me, I find it so inspiring to look at you and see you as such a big staple in my life, and seeing that you are so authentic to yourself. It's really crazy to see that in someone your age, where they are completely themselves and so authentic, and I find that super inspiring. And I was like, it really touched me when he said that, because I really, really think a big purpose in my life, obviously I have so much of my life left to live, but a big purpose in my life was to stay true to myself, especially with things that I dealt with earlier in my life that I really struggled with. I think a lot of things that helped me was finding who I am as a person, and I'm obviously still evolving, and you will evolve throughout your whole life, but being able to look at something and or just be able to express yourself that is very truly you, it's very freeing and it's very comforting, and it is very beneficial in ways that you wouldn't even notice until you actually reach that point where you are authentic to yourself. But linking back to what I was saying about how fast the digital age is at the moment, I think that your clothes, especially like in the past, I think the clothes that people wore came from their life experiences and from just their everyday life, whereas clothes now, more so with social media being such a present and big staple in life in general, I think now clothing comes from an algorithm, and algorithms don't care who you are, they care what performs. This brings me to the idea of fashion as status instead of self. And this is not a new idea. Fashion has always been a thing of status, even 200 and 300 and 400 years ago. It has been an idea of status. And it used to be tangled in with class, culture, limitation, rebellion. It has represented a lot of that status over centuries and centuries, and that really makes me think of one person in particular, Miss Carrie Bradshaw. And now I'm going to reference her, obviously. If you're new to my YouTube channel, no, but actually, if you haven't watched my last video, my last video was about Carrie Bradshaw actually, and her fashion sense and what I think she would wear in 2025. Anyways, but I genuinely think that she is such a good figure to look at in this topic. Carrie's outfits weren't good because they were expensive or quirky, which they definitely were very expensive and very quirky. They were good because they were her. They were so specifically her own style, and they altered my view on her character, and I think the audience's view on her character. If she weren't wearing those clothes that were so her, then I don't think her character would have had so much depth. And I find that very, very telling about how clothes can represent us. Even if you look at her character versus Natasha's character, it shows that big of a difference. If you haven't watched Sex and the City, I strongly urge you to watch it. It is so good. I literally tell everyone I meet to watch Sex and the City, I think. Anyways, Carrie's outfits really just contradicted her, and they told stories, whereas today you kind of just wear the clothes without knowing why. It's not that you don't know what to wear. You do know what to wear. In fact, you know very easily what to wear. You know exactly what fits and what doesn't fit. But you don't know why that is the case, and you don't understand where that reason comes from, or why this is something that you have decided on. And wearing the right thing at the right time has really replaced dressing as yourself and dressing to your own individuality. And I think this is when the death of effort comes in. Oh my god, I feel like I'm heavily bullying some people and like going at it. But I don't mean anything as like if you feel like you're aligning with this, I don't mean it as criticism. It's honestly just the act of noticing. I think a lot, and okay. Anyways, I think, this brings me to the death of effort. Effortlessness used to be something you earned from knowing yourself so well. Now, effortlessness is something that you perform. I was recently in Paris, and obviously the big idea in Paris is that everyone dresses very effortlessly and they have the Parisian look and everything. But truth be told, I think I saw like a handful of people that had the Parisian aesthetic or really emulated that. And it's honestly like a full-blown myth. I love that. I think in Paris a lot of people wear something unique to themselves, which is really nice to see. Everyone's kind of wearing their own thing. But I think that's when people get lost, is like, oh my god, I want to be Parisian chic. It's like, girl, you can't be Parisian chic if you're not in Paris. No, I'm kidding. But what the hell? What am I saying? Sorry, I got lost in my thoughts. And I had to, then I guess that was my coping. But you're just trying to recreate something that is naturally somebody else's life, if that makes sense. Maybe the Paris wasn't the best example, but for example, like the off-duty, sorry, I'm saying like a lot. Oh, I hate that. Oh, no, but a better example might be the off-duty model. Oh my god, a better example might be the off-duty model aesthetic or theme in fashion or in like just aesthetics in general, because you see these paparazzi photos of models that are off-duty and it's like, oh my god, get ready with me to be get dressed with me off-duty model edition, when it's literally like just a random person who's getting ready to go to the gym. And I mean, like, go for that. Like, go ahead if that's what's getting you to the gym and your motivation to, like, I get that completely. But I just think that whole idea of looking effortless as a trend is completely defeating the purpose. And it's the effect of not knowing yourself and lacking the effort to learn to know yourself. Because once you do learn to know yourself, I think effortlessness will come easy. Trust me. When you try to look effortless by copying someone else's outfit or a certain aesthetic, it will look like you dress to copy that instead of it be actually like effortless. Not that effortlessness is the goal. Like, that shouldn't be the goal, but I feel like that's a really big trend and it really accumulates what I'm trying to point out in this video. Because the irony is, the real effortlessness just comes from the effort, which is what I was just saying. But what I mean is it comes from the effort of finding out who you are, and it comes from the repetitions and the mistakes and then the trying again. And it's really hard to get to know who you are, especially clothing wise. It's not easy and it'll take a lot of effort, but once you get there, I think the effortlessness is just so effortless. The point is, that is like the actual point, you're reaching your goals there, if that's the goal. Once you put in the effort to develop your taste slowly, then the rest comes easy. But trend cycles don't allow for slowness. They desire and they need the speed of the internet, and they demand instant fluency. When trends are moving this fast on the internet, it's really, really difficult for us viewers and the audience and the general public to keep up with their identity. And I think it really, because you're getting introduced to so many things that you're like questioning, oh my god, is this for me, or do I like that, or do I not like that? I like how she looks in that, but that doesn't mean that it's like that it's you. I think this really comes down to a lot of micro trends. That is every single day I'm seeing a slideshow of things that I think are going trending in 2026, and then it'll last the first like month at most, and then will fall off. Like, I think last year a good example of a micro trend was polka dots. I think I still love polka dots. I always have, but there was a very, very big peak in polka dot culture for like a month, and then it dropped off again because I have not been seeing anything polka dot in a while. I think the next one is going to be lace. That's my new prediction. I think I was actually put in one of those slideshows, guys. My photo that I put on Pinterest of me in a lace top was put in a trend prediction for 2026. That's why I said lace. Anyways, yeah. But even from micro trends to like fast fashion, copying luxury brands, and just reselling that stuff for like $2, it's everyone dressing well but relatively similar. It becomes a very, very repetitive cycle, and this makes me think people are borrowing their personalities from fashion micro trends, or they're borrowing their personalities from clothes. And this isn't because you're shallow or because they're shallow. It's because there's no space left to build your own personality. It is just so full of other ideas that it's like easy to get lost in the sauce, you know what I mean? Roland Barthes, I don't know if I'm saying his name correct, once wrote that fashion is a language, but language only means something if you're saying your own sentence. Authenticity doesn't mean dressing weird or rejecting trends or being completely original. It means being intent with what you wear and having an intent when you put on clothes and choose an outfit. Knowing why you return to those same silhouettes, knowing why certain colors feel like you when you're home and comfortable, and then also just recognizing why things and certain pieces will never work on you or just don't work on you as well as other ones, and that's okay. Even if they're beautiful, not everything will work for everyone, and that is completely fine. And it's knowing that you can accept that and move on because you know what you actually like and what you think is you. And I think some really key characters that I look at when I need to remind myself of that individuality and is Jane Birkin is a very big staple for me. She has a whole bag named after her that was represented by an inspiration of her because of how authentic to herself she was. That bag was the epitome of her. And I think that's really beautiful. Another character is, for instance, Kate Moss. A lot of the baddies love her. I think she's very constant, and that is very, very inspiring because for someone like her who has grown a lot of years in front of the cameras and pretty much has grown up in limelight, and you know, those key times, your 20s and your 30s and your 40s, and I think she's in her 50s now, I'm not sure, but she has stayed very consistent and very constant in what she chooses to wear and what is her personal style. And another person who I find similar in this whole realm of things is Solange. Oh my god, I love Solange so much. If you don't know who Solange is, Solange Knowles, I like her music. Okay, for example, her music isn't even something that I would often listen to, because it's not the type of music that I often listen to, and I listen to a wide range of music. But the past like 3 or 4 days even, I've only listened to her music, and it's because her music makes me feel so good. Like, it makes me feel like I don't know, just her whole embodiment as a person is so beautiful to me, and I will strive every day of my life to embody her charisma, and the way she carries herself is so beautiful. But it's also and I think it's because of how personal she is to herself and how independently and individual she is. And she's just so amazing, and her outfits are so beautiful, the way she expresses herself, the way she talks about things, and how she learns and how she teaches. I think it is very intentional, and she is such an intentional, consistent person. And oh my god, she is amazing. And when I look for like reminders of how I should continue my authenticity, or when I want to be authentic to myself but want to study other people, I will look at Solange, number 1, always. And obviously Kay Moss and Jane Birkin, but Solange she's that girl. I think and something that they all have in common is that their style isn't completely loud. There's nothing wrong with having a loud style either, but I think that what I noticed with all of them, between all 3 of them, is that their style isn't loud, except it is very, very committed. And and through that, it's individual, it's authentic. It's very inspiring. It's very inspiring. I don't know, like, I'm losing words, guys, as I've been talking for like 30 minutes, and I'm starting to really, fall off here. But to close off, I think the most radical thing that you can do here isn't dress differently. That's not my point or my intention with this video. I'm not saying you have to dress differently. That's not what I'm saying at all. I think it's fine if you draw inspiration from people. I think that's fine, and I think that is all about finding yourself, because you know where that comes from. Ooh. Oh my god, I'm hoping that lighting wasn't annoying that whole video, because I just moved my camera and it looks a lot better. Anyways, that wasn't my point with the video. The point of this video, instead, it's dressing deliberately. Asking yourself, is this me, or is this just an idea of someone who I want to be seen as? Because aesthetics fade, but authorship doesn't.